We are back.
We are back. Hello, guys. What is up? My name is Dylan. Welcome to the Popcorn Podcast. This is episode number 13.
Lucky number
Run out
13.
Of
Fingers.
13 is your lucky number?
No.
Episode 13. Welcome back, everyone. It's been a
Thank you
little
very
while.
much.
Hello.
Pleasure to have us back.
We are joined with the OG gang. If you guys have been watching since episode 1.
Yeah.
Guys, welcome
Dylan,
back. Theo,
you.
Panwa,
Thank you.
Mickey. We've all been off doing our own little things.
We have indeed.
Some more collaborative than others. But we've all been working on some pretty exciting stuff that we will eventually be sharing in the coming months, I would say. Yes?
Well,
Yes.
me?
Well, yeah.
Maybe not in the coming months,
you
but
know, in the near future.
exciting,
In the near future.
very exciting stuff coming.
You guys
in the near
have been working on features. I'm still on the shorts, but next time.
Anyways, what is the reason we are gathered here today? We are here to talk about Martin Scorsese's new film, Killers of the Flower Moon. So I just do want to just straight up ask you guys, what do you guys think of Martin Scorsese as a filmmaker? I know, like, if you are somewhat into films, there's no way the name has escaped you. Theo,
Sorry, who?
Who?
What are you fucking owl?
Scorsese, Martin Scorsese. We were talking just before, but I was going to say, like, versatility is like the first thing that comes to mind, and I think that needs to be taken into account with a director, in terms of the sense of someone that's able to look for, interesting philosophical, conflict stories in any genre, in any state. And I think he's just sort of cross genres, and there's not many directors that do that. You've got Spielberg and Kubrick. But other than that, most directors sort of seem to stay in a certain lane, which makes it more exciting, makes it more fresh when each of his films come out.
Yeah, he's definitely one of the directors that covered sort of the most genres out there. I mean, his catalogue is full of just basically everything. Do you guys think, if we're talking about the greatest of all time or the GOAT debate, do you think, in your eyes, Martin Scorsese is, to put it simply, the GOAT?
I think he's the fourth best.
You think he's the
director of all
fourth
time.
best?
I think he's my favorite.
Okay.
For sure, undoubtedly.
Out of
any
everyone.
filmmaker to ever exist, he's my
Wow.
favorite. Like he is my guy.
Cool.
He's the dude who made me love cinema.
Wow.
But he's not the best. He's like the second or third best.
Interesting. Who would you put above him?
The best
Just
is
out of
Kubrick.
interest.
Spielberg is the best.
I would have to say Spielberg just because of my personal connection, but yeah, you said fourth
Spielberg,
best.
Kubrick, Kurosawa, and then Scorsese.
Okay.
I would say
Interesting.
Kubrick, and then Scorsese.
Could you
Of all
make
time.
an argument that Scorsese is like a mature version of Spielberg, in the sense that his films are just sort of slightly more mature in theme?
No, because Spielberg's done
Yeah, he's
dark
done
films
He's
as
done
well.
dark films, but how many dark films?
Not to the level of Scorsese,
Not to the level of
though.
He made a
Like
Holocaust
Spielberg
movie.
loves a fun film too.
Yeah.
he's got, like you said in the previous episode, a Hollywood heart. Like a lot more
Yeah.
kids
Oh,
can
yeah.
watch Spielberg films than
But has Scorsese made a sort of light-hearted film?
Hugo.
Other than Hugo. So Spielberg's made Schindler's
Comedy,
List.
New York. He has done a few.
Mm.
I will say this one thing about Scorsese and Spielberg and stuff like that. We talk a lot about last time in your Oppenheimer video that the directors who make films for themselves and for the audience. I think that Spielberg is someone who takes something that's very interesting and throws it to the masses. Scorsese is someone who takes more obscure topics, things that aren't necessarily widely acknowledged or interesting, and he basically says, I'm going to take this kind of obscure thing, but I'm such a good director and I'm so good at my job that I'm going to make you interested in
Yeah.
it. And I think this goes back to what he said when, probably the most famous interview where Scorsese talks about his advice to other filmmakers is
You gotta
make
be
your
serious
own-
about making a picture.
Yeah.
Sure, that too, but he says basically make your own
That was
industry.
a good impression.
It is a very good. You sound like the pufferfish from
I do a
Cocktail.
pretty good Scorsese, but now I'm on the spot, so I'm not gonna
No,
do
but
it
he does
again.
it. This is like that. Yeah, he does that like that. Anyway, basically, what Scorsese says:
I'm gonna clip that.
build your own industry, make your own industry, do something that is interesting to you, and if you're good at it, and if you can back it up with craft, people will be interested.
Yeah.
Whereas Spielberg is the flip side of that, where he brings his craft to stuff that is already very
So
widely.
the approach is the thing that's
Yeah.
different
yeah,
between the
in
two.
my opinion.
Great. Well, we're all gathered, like I said here, to talk about his latest film, Killers of the Flower Moon. So before we do get off into that discussion, I'm going to give you guys a brief plot synopsis. I just do want to give you guys a brief spoiler warning, a massive spoiler warning. If you haven't seen the film, please do not listen or watch further into this episode. Please go and watch the film, decide what you think of it, and come back and check out what we thought. So without further ado, Killers of the Flower Moon juggles love, greed, corruption, and unspeakable betrayal, amongst other things, in what is a 3.5-hour true crime Western epic coming to you from the legendary filmmaker that is Martin Scorsese. When oil is discovered in 1920s Oklahoma under Osage Nation land, a spree of brutal murders fueled by greed and the desire for power falls on the people of the Osage Nation. Following this injustice, the FBI, in what has known to be their first big case, steps in to unravel the mystery. Right, guys. So we have all seen Killers of the Flower Moon.
Mm-hmm.
I want to ask you guys about your individual experiences watching that film for the first time.
Well, because mine is the most boring of the bunch, objectively.
Because we've all had slightly different experiences. For example, myself, I managed to check this out at the BFI London Film Festival at a press screening. It was 8 o'clock in the morning. I had a coffee in one hand and my eyes gazed on the screen for 3.5 hours. And one would think that would be a pretty terrible way to experience a film. You know, you'd be sleepy, you'd be tired, you wouldn't pay as attention as much. But honestly, you'd be surprised. Like we remember last year.
We did The Whale like that, right? No,
we did Knives Out too.
Oh, Knives Out
at
too.
like 8 in the morning. And
literally 8 in the morning. Yeah.
It's not a bad way to watch a film. So
I did The Whale like that too.
You did,
and that was a heavy watch for 8
I did
o'clock.
Poor Things as well. Like
yeah.
Anyways, Mickey, yourself, how did you?
Bro, I just watched it in the cinema. I literally just watched it in a picture house.
Yeah.
Like I was by myself. I just went had a little date night with me. Yeah.
Self-care.
I had a self-care night with
Was there many people in the cinema?
It was full.
Wow.
To the rim.
Really?
But I saw it opening Friday.
Okay.
It was full. Like when I tell you full, like front row, full, like to the brim. I had like, I think the best seat, and this is the first time in ever, I think, where I have picked the seat to be on the aisle because I knew that I would go to pee. But it was like a massive screen. So you have like the side ones and then the middle ones and then the other side. So I was in the middle on the aisle because I knew like if I was bang on in the middle, I would make 80 people go to pee. And I went to pee.
Yeah. I mean, I watched this film again last night for the second time. But unfortunately, there were like very limited amount of parties in the cinema.
Oh, wow.
It was a pretty big screening, and it was a bit sad to see. But I mean, the film's been out for what, like 3 weeks now?
Yeah.
2, 3 weeks. So yeah, but of course, I want to lastly come to you guys because I know you guys had quite a special sort of occasion where you guys want to tell the folks about it?
So Theo and I, we were buddies at the London Film Festival, as I was with Dylan as well. But that morning we did 2. It was the only day we did 2. So we did May, December.
Oh yeah.
Pretty good. We went for lunch and then we went to this film where we got to see Martin Scorsese in person. He would come and introduce the film and so with Chief Standing Bear of the Osage Nation.
Well, usually at the London Film Festival, there's one day where we watch 3 films.
Oh God, yeah.
And we were gonna do a film in between May, December.
Yeah, so we watched 2, but then we go to the cinema as like a palate cleanser. We watched like a shitty rom-com.
But we were very lucky that we didn't do that because
it would have been too much.
It would have been too much.
It
would have been like 9 hours of cinema.
But the film for us was quite physically exhausting because we were already in a cinema that morning, and then a kind of a quick lunch break. And then we went into 3.5 hours, and we were sat at the very bottom, so our necks were just destroyed.
Oh my God! Don't sit at the front of the London Film Festival. As much as you save money by getting the cheap seats.
Also, remember,
you're just like
the guy next to me had no
up.
regard for personal space and kept like lunging into me for no reason.
3.5 hours.
Do you think? Well, I don't want to touch on the runtime yet, but do you think that the fact that it was premiere with Scorsese heightened the experience? Because the reason I'm saying this is because I personally did feel the runtime of Killers of the Flower Moon for sure, but last year I saw Bardo in the same way that you guys did with you, Dylan, with Inarito
Bong
there.
Joon-ho was behind me.
And that one I did not feel. And that was also like 3.5 hours.
Yeah,
and I did not feel that to be that long. So do you think that the fact that
it
you
did
were there
feel
in
long,
that vibe...
no, because we were like,
okay, fair.
And the guy was breathing down my neck.
Yeah.
It was extremely uncomfortable.
Well, so what is your current verdict on the film in terms of like how do you feel about the film, just generally speaking? Is it a film that you enjoy, you like?
Can I go first?
You can go first.
Just because, okay.
I can see you're like.
I think we all have a certain level of respect for the movie and a lot of respect for
100%.
But a lot of people have said that like this is Martin Scorsese's like one of his best, that this should be his last movie, that this is like this kind of seminal career-ending, defining masterpiece. Disagree?
No,
disagree.
I don't think it is his best film.
I don't think it's his best film.
I think it has a lot of his greatest sort of elements and trademarks as a filmmaker,
yeah.
for sure. I think for me, if you were talking about his personal sort of
rankings and filmography.
No, but I'm saying his personal sort of need to tell this story. It ranks very high. If it were to be his last film, I would be okay with.
Yes,
like I would be okay, especially regarding the final moments of the film. You know, if you've seen.
I think it feels like, you know how Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is like Tarantino's last epic. Like that's his and now this whatever 10th film is gonna be like his epilogue and his like. So I think this is what Killers feels to Scorsese. Like it feels like his last grand, you know, this epic of a
with
film.
DiCaprio and De Niro.
I think he'll end up doing other stuff, but I do think this is his like last hurrah. Yeah.
I don't know. What do you feel
feels
about
like
that? What do you feel about? Are you sad that it could be?
Fuck yeah, I'm sad. It's Scorsese. I would have him do films forever. If
Have you guys seen another Scorsese film in a cinema before this? What was his last? Irishman.
I saw Irishman.
I saw Irishman in a cinema. I've seen a few. I saw Hugo in a cinema. I saw Wolf of Wall Street in a cinema.
You saw Wolf of Wall Street?
Really?
Yeah.
How? We were like 14.
Yeah, but it's Bulgaria, bro. I saw, what was after Wolf of Wall Street? Silence. I saw Silence in a cinema. I've seen all of his films in a cinema.
Wow.
You saw Silence in a cinema?
Yeah.
Okay, just checking.
I did.
Right. Well, so now that we've talked a little bit about Scorsese and sort of his, or like just our general initial impression about the film, I want to go into more detail about Scorsese's approach to Killers of the Flower Moon. What about Killers of the Flower Moon to you guys feels different in comparison to his other films?
Can I?
Yeah.
Can I? I think I'm going to again speak on behalf of both of them. I'm going to go on a slight monologue rant. But bear with me, and I'm going to shut up after this. I think that the big controversy that a lot of people have been talking about, I'm going to speak as fast as I can, is the fact that the movie is very long. It's 3 hours and 20-something minutes. It's actually shorter than Irishman, but people doesn't seem to acknowledge that. And a lot of people have been making an issue of the runtime and saying the movie's bad or subpar because it's long, and a bunch of buffoons on TikTok have become quite viral because of that. This is not an issue of runtime. This is all an issue of ultimately three things. Pacing, momentum, stamina, point of view, and the actual craft of the filmmaking, all of which we'll touch on in a second. But the first thing I really want to touch on is the fact, Martin Scorsese, the best way to understand and appreciate Killers of the Flower Moon is by actually looking back at his previous 6 films, his previous filmography. In the early 2000s, Martin Scorsese made films that feel very, very Scorsese, but in slightly more experimental ways. These films being The Aviator, Gangs of New York, and The Departed. Moving on into the early 2000s, the first 3 films he made were a kind of a trashy studio mystery in Shutter Island, which a lot of people
It's not a trashy studio mystery.
He didn't like it, by the way.
It's not a trashy studio mystery.
I still like the movie, but I don't rate it as highly. And Martin Scorsese, that's his last studio movie, and it was because he didn't like making Shutter Island. He then made Hugo, which is, basically a family movie, right? A love letter to cinema. Then went and made the most fast-paced and exciting 3-hour movie of all time. After that, he decided...
Until Babylon,
yeah. And then he went into what I like to call the pensive, slow, epic.
Meditative.
He made 3 films, which if you watch the trailers of Silent, Irishman, and Killers, they are like marketed to be really fast-paced, exciting epics. Like Kurosawa-level Japanese movie, like Goodfellas 2.0 and a proper big Western. They're not that. They are slow, patient, methodical films. But this is where my point comes in is, the difference that Silence and The Irishman have that this film does not have, and why I believe this is one of its biggest flaws, is focus. Silence has the single most straightforward plot in any Scorsese movie. Andrew Garfield and Adam Driver go to Japan to find Liam Neeson. That is it. That's the movie. So therefore, you always know that they're either going to find Liam Neeson or not. That's literally the movie, right? It's so straightforward. And then The Irishman, no matter how crazy it gets, no matter what character's point of view you're seeing it from, be it Joe Pesci or Al Pacino or De Niro, you always get cut back to old Frank Sheeran. So therefore, you always know where the movie is going. Same with Oppenheimer, where you always know it's going to end up at that deposition with Downey in black and white, right? So Killers of the Flower Moon does not have that. So you never know. You're sat there for 3.5 hours. You never know where the movie's going.
Oh, yeah. I disagree.
Okay.
I actually disagree with that too.
Okay.
I agree with everything that you said about why it's maybe a little bit different than his other films, but I don't think you know where it's gonna go.
You don't.
Well, you know that it's gonna go like plot wise. Yes, they are gonna. there's going to be repercussions.
There's going to be a reckoning.
But I actually thought that the best part of the film was that we didn't know when all of this was going to implode.
Right.
So we didn't really know what the fuck was going to happen with Jesse
Plemons.
Yes, Plemons' his character. So that to me was really interesting.
But the issue that I have is that I don't mind a film where you're scene by scene by scene, where there is no clear end goal. Because Wolf of Wall Street is like that. Casino is like that. The Aviator is like that. But the things that these films have, the killers don't have, is my next point, which is a sense of energy and a sense of unstoppable kind of force, right? The visual diversity, where no two scenes take place in the same location, where every conversation scene between two people, they're always different. Whereas I think our issue with this film, one of it is like, every scene is the same people wearing the same costumes, talking in the same rooms about the same things with the same close-ups and the same wides, and and it was like for if you want to do that for 2 hours, the way Fincher does in Social Network, fair enough. But if it's 3.5 hours long and it's lacking in visual diversity, there comes the issue.
I'd say the other films you mentioned have like a forward motion,
Momentum,
whereas these films. The Killers of the Flower Moon, I think, gets so repetitive. It's like one kill, and then you've got Jesse Plemons who's interviewing someone, and I think that sort of structure doesn't really help with the runtime. And it's not. What's interesting is like some people think filmmaking is all about entertainment.
No,
a lot of the time it's more about engagement with the audience, and in terms of engaging the audience,
that's a great quote.
It's like this film, I think. You guys sort of had a dig at me for looking at my phone. But the thing is...
with Martin Scorsese in the fucking room, by the way.
I can't believe that.
Oh my God. Theo, when you make it as a filmmaker one day, Martin Scorsese is going to slap you.
But for me, if I want to make...
I'm just going to answer emails during Theo's premiere.
Thing is, if I want to make a successful film... I want to make a film that doesn't mean that
the people go on their phones.
People don't go on their phones. You know what I mean? I think by making a 3.5 hour film, that loses that momentum, and someone needs to check an email or whatever. I think that's a failure of the film in terms of engagement.
I agree. I'm going to preface this by saying I actually love 3 hour long films. I think the like perfect runtime for me as a viewer is between 2 hours 15 and 2 hours 45. But a 3 hour long film I love. Like some of my favorite films in the last couple of years have been 3 hours. But you need to, as you said very well, you need to like keep it
moving.
How do you need a level of high energy to pull off a 3 hour long film.
How do you guys?
Because Lawrence of Arabia is longer, it has energy. Return of the King is longer, it has energy.
Just the fact,
the Snyder Cut is longer,
you need
it
it to feel exciting.
Yep.
A lot of the time to pull that off. I'm not saying that's right. Maybe as viewers we should be able to go through a 4 hour long film that's slow, but you do.
But okay, one question I'd ask you is, as filmmakers, what I think is you need to make the film as effective in the least amount of time possible. So like be the most efficient with it. It's like
that's a good point.
As directors, how do you feel about that? Do you feel
I
like
disagree. Because like Lawrence of Arabia is great because it just has shots of people riding around in camels for like 20 minutes, and that's why it's good.
But I guess with slow cinema, well,
it's not slow. It's still like really fast paced.
I get what you mean. I agree to a point where I think you should
be efficient with the screen time.
I think you should strive to be efficient, but it shouldn't be a necessity of film. There are a lot of films that are slow and a lot of films that really take their time to breathe. And I would say, like, we were talking before we started this about, I mentioned Midsommar, and Midsommar's directorial cut is 3 hours long, and it does feel long, and it is very slow, and it does breathe a lot, but I was never bored during that. Could that be more efficient? Fuck yeah, you can make Midsommar. You could probably make Midsommar like an hour 40 and you could pull it off.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes through this efficiency, you lose a lot of the color and the depth of the
you do.
film.
Like, Films Deep doesn't need to be that long, but it is. The fact that
exactly.
Two questions I'd ask you about Killers of the Flower Moon then would be, one, do you think it could be edited down to 2.5 hours and be like a really efficient?
Yes.
100%.
Yes.
Or could you edit it up to a 4 hours prestige TV?
Yes. So yes, this is Theo said to me that he thinks one of the cool ideas that he had was, and he doesn't have a lot of cool ideas, is that they should have been turned into a mini series, which would have been fantastic.
It's going on Apple anyway.
Yeah.
This is the thing. It's going on Apple anyway. So
do you guys not think that maybe one should ask the question, simple fact of the matter is, are you actually interested in the material?
I am.
The story that he is trying to tell. Because, you know, with 3-hour films like Lord of the Rings or Wolf of Wall Street even, you know, there's a sense of like, well, the Wolf of Wall Street, which we'll talk about soon, there's excitement that comes from the characters just watching them do whatever the fuck they want for 3 hours, and the filmmaking has this sprawling sort of momentum towards it. Killers of the Flower Moon, like you guys say, you know, it's visual diversity, sure, but like, I don't know how much can you do with like where we're focusing on one location on two specific groups of people, and a lot of it is essentially just talking in rooms.
But my point, just to clarify, is talking in rooms is fantastic. Like 12 Angry Men, I think, is the best ever dialogue-driven film. Social Network is just talking in rooms, but they do that with energy, with dynamism, and I think Scorsese, actually, dare I say, kind of like in his trilogy of slow-paced, you know, methodical films, has slowly but surely lost that a little bit. And because you don't have the backup of, you know, the Japanese landscape, or the fact that every location in The Irishman is different, or that there's action going on quite a lot, you feel that more.
I would say that I agree to a point, but I think the main issue with it is not actually I'm very interested in the subject matter, actually, so that's check.
Same.
But then I think the main issue is not even that they're talking in the same rooms or the same, or even because the energy is there both through the performances,
especially in the performances,
and also Thelma Schumacher. Like one of the best editors of all time. She smashed it to keep that pace up.
The first hour of the film, like I said to you guys, vanished.
Yes,
like, it just went into thin air.
I actually think the issue is like really quite simple, and it's that a lot of the conversations are about the same thing.
Yep.
So that's why I think you could cut it down to 2 hours 30, is because a lot of what's going on, it reaches a high in plot, not in energy. So it reaches a point, and then something happens where it drops back down, and then it goes back up again. But you could just kill that second slope down.
Yeah,
you could just keep it there.
Agreed completely.
It's interesting you guys say this, because I do kind of agree with what you're saying, but I also have another take on it, in the sense that I remember seeing an interview with Scorsese and his sort of, like I said, approach to this film. And he said that he didn't want to tell the story from the outside in.
Right.
I think that's a brilliant.
He wanted to tell it from the inside out, looking at the, you know, the relationship between, you know, Ernest and Mollie.
Yep.
And I think ultimately that is the thing that grounds the story.
I agree.
Entirely. 100%. It doesn't matter how repetitive things get. It's repetitive, and we're talking about different things, but the relationship and that dynamic and the intensity of that, and what's the line between right and wrong is constantly being pushed until the point of like almost explosion. That is the thing that really is the thing.
I agree.
I'm invested in.
I agree.
And that's why I didn't find it boring. Yeah. I wouldn't call the film boring. I would just say, coming into a 3.5 hour film, you need a certain level of stamina regardless. Like if you're, you know, you need to come prepared to watch something and really get intellectually sort of get a grip on it. That's my take on it. But you were gonna say,
I have one final. I've addressed my first two issues with the movie, and I'm going to address my last one now real quick, and then we can move on to the good stuff. You talked about the whole outside in, inside out thing. Martin Scorsese talked about that when he spoke out loud, and we got to hear him. But my issue, that's where my final issue lies, is that actually the movie actually kind of feels confused, because number one, you wanted to do as much justice as you possibly could to the Osage people. And that's actually partly why I think this is such an important movie, is that he's not making it for himself. He's not making it for the audience. He's making it for the Osage people, to do justice to them. And that's why the movie feels so procedural and has to be so careful and sensitive, because you got to tell everything to do justice to them adequately, right? But you cast Leonardo DiCaprio as the lead. You obviously have to give him screen time, and he has to be the protagonist. But you also then can't have a sympathize with him too much, because ultimately he's kind of a despicable character. And then that's why Lily Gladstone, who is ultimately the powerhouse and the spine and the heart of the movie,
who's fucking amazing,
incredible. She should be the main character, but she can't really be, because you just cast Leonardo DiCaprio. And also, if you do even actually bite the bullet and make her the protagonist, doesn't work, because she's asleep for the second hour of the movie.
That would have been such a cool twist as well. Like, you know how he went from the inside out?
Yeah.
He could have gone even further in, and he could have
Made
totally
Mollie
made
just
her
straight up the
made
protagonist.
It could have
everything
become
from
like
her
a
perspective.
paranoid thriller.
Have you seen that
So
video
interesting.
essay that's about why Passengers is from the wrong perspective?
Yes,
I haven't seen it.
yes.
So
it
it's
must be from
really,
Jennifer
really
Lawrence's point
quickly.
of view.
Oh, that's a. I want to watch
quickly.
that.
So
What
have you seen
Passengers?
Passengers?
Yeah,
I've
really
seen it.
quickly.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
So
such a good
there's this video essay that goes like, from his
Nerd writer.
perspective, we know everything going on, but from her perspective, it's about this weird guy who is like there for. So now there's this sense of mystery and not understanding and everything. So I think this is. I just thought of this when you said
Yeah.
it, but I think it would have been actually maybe
so
quite
much
cool
cooler.
to have Killers be from Lily Gladstone's
Yes.
perspective
Can I
and
say-
have Leo be a stranger to her as well.
I watched it for a second time last night, and what was amazing about that, even though I would say I did feel the runtime a little bit more on the second watch, because you kind of when you watch a film for the second time, you're kind of waiting for things to happen. Like you know what's going to happen, you're waiting for these scenes, so the scenes you're watching play out naturally feel a little bit longer. But the amazing thing about my rewatch was I was actually able to look at the events taking place more from the perspective of
Lily
Lily
Gladstone.
Gladstone's character, of Mollie. And that was when I really began to sort of emotionally connect with the film a little bit more. I think the film has issues, and I think the runtime is obviously going to turn a lot of people away.
It shouldn't though. But
It shouldn't.
It shouldn't.
the
yeah.
pacing
Yes.
should.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think when you actually get when you actually get an understanding of who this story should
Be about.
be about, or
The point of view.
the point of view and the focus of the story being, Mollie,
Yeah.
a story about her. That's when I really feel you'll be able to make feel like the magic of this film, because at the end of the day, she is, like you said, she's the power, she's the heart and soul of this
She's
film.
amazing.
She grounds this
She's
entire
amazing.
film.
But do you know why making her the protagonist also does work? And they shot themselves in the foot, and Theo said this. She's asleep for the second half of the movie. She's in bed the whole time.
But isn't that unavoidable though? I mean,
yeah,
that's
exactly. So
that's
you shot yourself
Also,
in the foot.
no,
man.
come on, that's an over-exaggeration.
Yeah.
She's not asleep for the second half of
Yeah,
the
no.
movie.
Like for a significant
No,
chunk, right?
she's
It's for about an hour. She's
But
in
I-
bed.
Yeah, but it's a 3 hour and a half
Let me tell
long
you something,
film.
let me tell you something. I know how to get out of that problem though, is that you should have done like an Irishman, where it starts the film, you restructure it slightly with her, after all of the events, and she's older, and then she's, she tells the story to like a daughter or a granddaughter or something, and therefore 100% from the get-go that she is the protagonist, and even when she's put out of the incapacitated, you can then cut back to her and she's still speaking.
Or
So she's
how
the
about?
presence
Oh, sorry.
throughout.
Go,
But they
go
do
on.
have different perspectives in the thing. She does narrate
Yeah,
some of the
yeah,
things.
yeah.
So
she does,
like,
but like,
You know what would have been cool also is you know how she is asleep for like 1 hour of the film. How cool would it be if you basically, if it was from her perspective, you cut that hour completely off. So she falls asleep and then she wakes up and shit has hit the fan. And we
yes.
got to figure out what the
What's
fuck
happened? Yep,
happened.
yep,
Like,
yep, yep, yep,
whilst,
yep, yep.
why was she asleep? What was going on? Like, you got all these things that need to unravel. So that creates a sense of mystery to the
100%.
film.
That's
as
a
well.
good idea.
I
That's
think
a
it
very
all
good
just
idea.
goes back to what you were saying and Scorsese's
course it was.
approach here.
Scorsese's watching this and he's like, fuck, why
take
didn't I
notes,
think of that?
Martin.
No, but it's the responsibility he feels to do justice to not this one story,
Yeah.
but an entire nation.
You can't take
and the
that many
history of
liberties.
that.
Yeah.
You can't. I mean, like, sure, it would be cool because we watch these as movies and we love movies and we
to
like
some
the
people,
sense
this
of
is not just a
excitement.
movie.
But exactly, it's like kind of what you were saying on the first time of Oppenheimer. It's like a historical kind of
Oh yeah.
like piece that exists to represent a certain a group of people, a community, and that is exactly what Scorsese did. We all know like the troubles of that he had to go through to make this film. It took like 6 years, a lot of back and forths with the Osage people.
Mm.
And I remember him saying like he could have even gone more. He could have gone 4 hours, 5 hours. So yeah, I think the way the story is constructed is completely different to how he would usually approach making a film of this.
But
this,
that partly comes with the responsibility
Exactly.
of having the weight on your shoulders. I have one request for the audience, though. You've just heard this loudmouth talk extensively about his issues with the movie and how he very much felt the pace of the 3.5 hours. And there are a lot of people on the internet who didn't feel that pace and thought that it was fantastic. And I would love to hear why I want to see that movie because I love Scorsese. I want to watch that movie. So could you, in the comments or something, justify, because I've just spent 20
I
minutes
think
talking about it.
just to throw something out there, and I do think I speak maybe for the couch. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Killers is a good film.
Yes, it is.
It there are faults to it. I think that mainly come from the pacing of it, and some of it from the plot side, and some of it from the writing side.
The
to be
lack of
honest,
focus is my
like there's just, you could condense that script. Maybe you could you could change things up, like you could remove things and add things if you wanted to keep it that way. And there are issues I personally have, but it's still a good film. It's a Scorsese film. Like,
can I ask you guys a quick question in terms of? So my favorite thing about Killers was the performances.
Yes.
I agree.
I thought De Niro, just like the dude, like
He's so good.
he's old, but he's still just unbelievably like dominates every scene. And I also think Leo. Can we talk about Leo quickly?
Let's do it.
good.
So, I listened to a few podcasts recently where people were sort of like, I think Leo's a bit overrated. Like he does the same
I don't
thing.
think so.
No.
And can we just talk about where he stands in sort of the all-time greats? Is he
I
part
think
of-
Leonardo DiCaprio is the greatest movie star of all time, and I think he was certainly in the
How do you
top
define
10.
movie star?
Gets butts into seats. Someone who people
Yes.
would want to go.
No.
Cruise.
The
I'd say
greatest
Tom
movie
Cruise.
star, the greatest movie star to get people into seats.
I guess it's Tom Cruise.
It's Tom Cruise.
But like get people to
Purely
talk
on
about it.
because
Like,
this film would have been successful if it wasn't for Leo, because it is Scorsese. Like I went on opening night and it was full, and I would say 80% of people would have gone there if Leo wasn't in it and if it was just Scorsese, because Scorsese is a name on its own already.
Yeah, even the marketing for this film, it doesn't really have Leo,
not Leo
as
heavy.
central, as it would do with a lot of the other.
I mean, to be honest, that's because of the strikes.
yeah.
So the
Yeah.
reason Scorsese is doing interviews is not because they're not putting Leo, it's because nobody
No,
besides Scorsese.
I'm not saying to
in
do
the
with the
trailers
interviews. I'm
and
saying
stuff.
to do with the trailers,
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
posters,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
kind of.
But
physical marketing.
also Leo does feel like less of a presence in the marketing because he's not allowed to talk about it.
I'm purely saying from an.
Yeah, no, I know.
from
But
a
okay,
perspective, but
so
yeah.
question
As an actor.
in terms of like, so you got the all-time greats, which is sort of Daniel
Day,
Day-Lewis,
Marlon Brando.
Philip Seymour, what's his name?
Philip
Philip
Seymour
Hoffman.
Marlon Brando.
Marlon Brando, Al
Cary
Pacino.
Denzel.
Robert De Niro.
Robert De
Denzel
Niro.
Washington.
So Denzel, you've put in that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Top 3 for me.
Now, I'd
Denzel.
say top 3, not in this order, of all time would be Robert De Niro, Daniel Day-Lewis, and Leonardo DiCaprio.
Wow. So he's in your
And
top
then
3.
Yeah.
and then you have people like Tom Hanks.
Yep.
And then but of Leo's age group, you've got Christian Bale,
Brad Pitt.
Oh,
Brad
fuck,
Pitt.
I forgot Christian Bale.
Johnny Depp. Bradley Cooper. You know.
There is a wave of actors
Ed Norton.
coming in now. Also, by the way, Meryl Streep. You know?
Yeah.
I thought we were talking about male actors. You know? Like,
Yeah, I was going through
Paro
the
was
I was going
"Don't
through the
fucking-
mail.
Don't fucking gang up on me. But no, you got a new wave of actors coming in that are like in their 30s now that could well be in that list in like 20, 30 years.
Yeah, yeah.
but yeah, to
I think-
sum up Theo's point,
yeah.
DiCaprio is goated.
He's like pushing.
Oh,
yeah,
for
yeah.
sure.
Oh,
he
yeah,
has.
yeah.
He's worked with the best selection of directors. Like he's done Nolan, he's done Tarantino, he's done Scorsese, he's done Spielberg, he's done everyone. Like
I think he's got the best balance between drawing the audience just through just pure charisma, but then also being a bit of a character actor as well.
100%. He
And I
proved
think-
that with Calvin
yeah.
Candy, I think.
And there's not many people. I think Jake Gyllenhaal probably is more of a character actor and less of like a
Movie star.
movie star.
Mm.
So you got those like really fantastic actors, and Christian Bale is probably another one. I don't think he probably carries the film in the same way Leo does.
Dylan, what do you think about Lily Gladstone?
I think Lily Gladstone for me stole almost more or less stole the show.
Best actress?
Absolutely. I think
for this year, Oscars. Best actress?
it's between her and Emma Stone and Poor Things. I think
For you, Emma Stone, okay.
I think so. I think Lily Gladstone, like I said, is the heart and soul of this film. I think she does so much with so little. The way she just uses her face and her eyes are so telling. They're like so dark and whatnot, and she says so much just with her eyes alone. There is a scene towards the end of the film where I can't remember his name, but is confessing to murdering her sister in the film, and basically he's just sort of just rambling in the courtroom saying then I just basically killed her, and then I think he sort of positioned her in a shot, and he's just sort of just saying it like just how it is, and there's just one shot of her in the audience kind of, and you just sort of melt in your seat as you see her. Like it's just it's
Do you
incredible.
know that
And
she was cast because of her eyes, like the way that she acts.
I didn't
with
know
her
that.
eyes.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Actually, this is my favorite Scorsese fact, is that he hates eyebrows, like acting with your eyebrows. So he will
He's
do
got
takes.
quite prominent eyebrows. hasn't he?
He will do takes again if the actor is overexpressing with their eyebrows. So he chooses actors that are most expressive with their eyes, and she was cast over Zoom because of how expressive she was
Incredible.
already with her
Insane.
eyes over Zoom. And he is right, by the way.
Yeah,
she
she's
is
fantastic.
fucking unbelievable.
She's brilliant.
Like, and it's her eyes. Like the way she will just sit there and do nothing, and
But
you feel
You
everything.
Yeah, and that's why I also think is like the majority of the film. She's a very quiet sort of brewing character.
Yeah.
That when shit starts to hit the fan, and then she has these outbursts. Those outbursts feel even
I agree.
sort of more like crazy, and you really feel for I mean, I think that character is brilliant. I think she's the best
I
character.
also
in the
gotta
entire
love
film.
the dynamic power, the dynamic between the power play between her and Ernest,
Yes.
because you know, DiCaprio. We spoke a lot about eyes and stuff. Body language as well is another thing which I think nailed it. There's a scene where like DiCaprio's kind of running around, and he's quite like a, you know,
Gideon.
yeah, he's quite an energetic person, and she's very still, and she's just sat there, and then he's trying to close all the windows, and then she just goes, let's just leave it.
Yeah.
And that is a microcosm for their relationship in the entire movie, because ultimately he's kind of like this very loud person. He's always moving around, and even when that he's driving her around the taxi, he's like looking around and he's just sat there. And therefore it's a wonderful contrast in body language that only fantastic actors and a fantastic director would be able to notice.
Absolutely.
Here's something really interesting just to throw out there. Robin Williams says that good comedy exists when the actor doesn't find whatever they're doing funny. And that's basically true. Like, if you find whatever you're doing funny, then the audience doesn't find it funny. They want to laugh at whatever you're doing because you don't realize how ridiculous it is. And Robin Williams says it works the same with drama. If a character finds it really easy to feel sad, for example, then we don't find it that easy to empathize with them. So we want a character that is less expressive and more still. And that then creates, it creates in our minds a sense of mystery, like what is it really that they're feeling? So that's engaging to us as viewers. But then also B, that makes the character just more interesting, because if somebody just bawls out every scene, it gets boring and you don't really empathize with them that much, versus when they do have a final outburst 3 hours into the film, you're like, holy shit. So I think that's a rule that Scorsese follows a lot, where throughout his filmography, with various exceptions, we see a lot of characters who are quite composed, and that's actually makes things really interesting and exciting for us to watch.
Very well said, yeah. But another thing about DiCaprio as well, I think like people just looked to De Niro and DiCaprio to like really be the stand-up performances, and we got Lily Gladstone, and it was amazing. But DiCaprio does something incredible with his face as well.
Yep.
Like the frown.
He has like a fake,
the entire
fake teeth.
Yeah, fake teeth, the frown, and like sort of him really becoming someone else. I did not see DiCaprio whatsoever.
Does he have fake teeth in it?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah?
Does he?
Something like that, yeah.
Really?
Yeah. And also, obviously,
Yes, I gotta rewatch it. When do I have 8 hours again? Sorry.
and obviously
Sorry, Scorsese.
Robert De Niro as well is like he's playing a character that has to, like you're sort of, he's a terrifying character, but he's also got to be charming.
Yeah.
And sort of really
Those are the
walk
best
that
kinds of
line.
villains, yeah.
Yeah, it's so good and so compelling.
I think certainly there are some films where DiCaprio plays the movie star, like Inception. He is
Yeah,
the
of
movie
course.
star. Titanic, he is the movie star. But I think in something like this, in Django as well, like he plays the character and he disappears into that character. And it takes a rare actor to be able to do both.
Yeah.
You know, and I think in this film, it's very much he is the character. He's not the movie star.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. What do you guys think about the other supporting actors and characters?
All fantastic.
All
I think
fantastic, yeah.
I remember watching, because obviously last night when I watched it, the FBI are so cool. I don't know why.
Yeah,
They're just so
yeah,
cool.
yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
Jesse Plemons just comes along and then
I read a comment that went like, I love that the FBI figured all this out by just asking a dude. Like they literally just figured out, they just went and they asked and, oh, okay, sure, fair enough. We're
But
gonna
that's how crazy the whole situation
yeah.
is. The idea that like, you know, this wasn't like a bigger thing, and the idea that, you know, this story hasn't been, it isn't something that is just not, I wouldn't say commonly known, but like not many people know about this. I certainly didn't know about this, and you know, it's a really dark chapter in American history, and I'm so glad that, you know, Scorsese, like I don't think there was anyone better to really sort of bring this film in and sort of give its day in court. I think it's terrific.
What did you guys think of Brenden Fraser? He was in Shortly.
He was
enjoyed
so
him.
good.
I enjoyed him.
I'm not gonna lie.
There was a weird bit where the audience laughed
No,
because he said something like, what did he say? Something about
he,
boy?
He was like, "Oh, you dumb boy."
Yeah.
I don't know, but people laughed at that line reading. It's like they were kind of, I don't know if they were laughing
I thought
at
he
him.
was great.
I won't lie to you. I love Brenden Fraser. I really do. But I think I'm not gonna lie. I think he's stuck out like a sore thumb. I'm not gonna lie.
Really?
I was like in the film, and then he came in and started shouting and stuff. I was like, wait, what?
Well, when he
Like,
shouted, I don't feel like his voice is almost deep enough for that.
Yeah.
He's sort of
I
like,
thought he was great. I thought he fits.
I think he's good, but
But I
like,
think he's meant to be like a slimy kind of out of place guy there.
Yeah. I enjoyed
I don't know.
the
It just
performance.
did this. I don't know how it just sort of played.
And mind you, it was towards the end of the movie, and I was like exhausted. I was like, "Thank you."
Oh,
Brenden.
actually, that's a good point. That's a good point because
Oh,
when he
mate.
shouted, I was like, "Oh, okay, I'm
We're back.
watching
We're
again."
back. We're back. Yeah, yeah.
you woke up from your sleep.
Although I have one important not important, but it was an interesting thing that Martin Scorsese said when we listened to him speak, because we've listened to Martin Scorsese speak in real. We had a conversation. He spoke. We listened. You know.
Yeah.
He
And then
said,
Theo went on his phone.
and then Theo,
Thanks for the 3.5-hour film, mate.
he said,
He was
in
gonna
his
get
opinion,
butchered.
he said in his opinion, one of the last major westerns, like proper westerns, was The Wild Bunch by Sam Peckinpah. And if anyone's seen The Wild Bunch, it's a really exciting kind of
I haven't seen it.
adrenaline ride. And he said that he wanted to make something like that, which is so interesting because in the same way that Silence is not really a Kurosawa-esque Japanese adventure, or The Irishman is not Goodfellas 2.0, it's actually like, you know, a much slower and a more patient film. This is not a proper Western. This is indoors, you know, it's conversations. There's no guys riding around on horses shooting guns and explosions. There are, but not nearly as much as you'd expect in a, you know, if he was comparing it to Sam Peckinpah's Wild Bunch. And so I would love to actually see Scorsese do one of those, like a proper like guys riding around on horses, because I feel like he just have so much fun.
I think so, but I will say, like, one of the things I love most about Scorsese is the way he does murders and like kills.
Yeah.
it's like a wide shot, and before you know it, the person
It's already happened. Yeah,
and I'm thinking like of course that's how it would be. Of
Yeah.
course.
It's so
you know, like,
nonchalant.
exactly, and I think it's brilliant. He does it in The Irishman, and he
He does it really good in The Irish.
I mean,
Yeah.
the best one is, I'm not going to say the movie, but The Elevator.
Oh yeah,
You know, the elevator.
Oh yeah.
It's a spoiler, but
Yeah.
like, it's the best one.
Second.
yeah.
No, I know.
Cut
But
the
that,
bit,
but
bit
that,
deposit.
but even,
Yeah, I know.
even that is supposed to be like a shocking thing,
Yep.
and it doesn't go away from the scene. It lingers on the scene.
Yep.
But I'm saying, like, in general, when you're portraying like murders in the street,
Yeah.
you just have a
guy walk
wide
up to
shot
another guy and pop him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And it's like
really
nothing happens. And like I said, like before you know what's happened, the scene's moved on.
Also, I've been speaking very like critically about the lack of like interesting visuals or whatever. There was one scene which I absolutely loved, and it was a scene which actually reminded me of Paul Thomas Anderson's The Master, where, you know, there's Joaquin Phoenix and Philip Seymour Hoffman, but this one is DiCaprio walking into the jail cell to talk to De Niro, and it's
Oh,
shot
yeah.
kind of through the bars.
yeah,
and the
yeah,
camera
yeah.
dollies on
That
him.
was cool. That was cool.
I thought, oh, cool. Like, okay, where was this the whole time, you know? And stuff like that. So the movie does have its visual moments, certainly, but by no means is this his best collaboration
Oh,
with Rodrigo Prieto.
Actually, this is a personal thing. It's not a criticism. I didn't like its visual style.
No, neither did I.
It's not a critique,
Yep.
because I don't think it's like objectively bad, but
Yeah.
it's not.
It kind
for
of
me.
felt like an Apple TV
I thought
film.
I thought the opposite. I thought it was like overlit. Like
Yes,
it
yes,
was
yes,
very.
yes.
It felt very studio-y in
Yep,
a,
yep.
but not because Apple has this like A24 minimalistic, modernistic feel usually.
I feel like it has a grayscale to it.
It does.
It
Yeah.
does.
Whereas this, I thought had like. I just wasn't that big of a fan
No.
personally, which surprised me because I usually love the way his films
Yeah,
look.
especially with Rodrigo Prieto shot Wolf of Wall Street, he shot Silence, he shot Irishman, and then I think this one it does feel very samey.
Yeah,
It felt very much
I
more
don't
samey
know.
than the
I
rest
don't
of
know
it.
why, but it just wasn't for me. Like it's not
Yeah,
a
same,
critique. It just
same.
wasn't
Is it when you say it wasn't for you? Are you saying you weren't sort of like?
I think it's
what-
literally it's not even the shot composure. It's the language of the whole film.
Yes,
Yeah.
I
It-
agree.
It just like it did not. Even like the color schemes and the way.
Yes.
I think mainly it came to the lighting,
Yep.
because the lighting was very prominent on purpose. So he wanted it to, I think what he wanted to do, he did. And he wanted it to feel this way. But I think
Personal preference.
personal preference,
Same.
it was a bit over stylized for me when it comes to that. The subject matter did not really fit the language for me, the visual
Interesting.
language.
I don't
Yeah, because I mean, you would expect a much more muted sort of.
Oh, so
visual.
I thought it was too muted.
You thought it was too muted. You thought there were things that
You muted? What do you mean?
I just think
the colors were definitely muted.
yeah,
I
the
think
movie
that was
didn't have
the-
any color, which I would have liked more color. Just again, personal preference. I think they did the right. Stuff.
Really?
Yeah.
I think the opposite. I think
Nah.
it was really like bright and
you said
I don't think it was vibrant.
Your
but
issue
it,
is a matter
it was,
of lighting. My issue is a matter of color.
But
You,
even as
you
a
think
matter
like
of
consistency
color,
and it's confused.
No.
No?
I think it's very concise, but it's very like bright and it's not vibrant, so it's not like colorful, but it is very in your face. I thought.
I mean, they did shoot on location.
like
and,
like
yeah.
Silence is very gray and minimalistic, but in a good way.
I think silence is
I think
perfectly colored.
I think it's perfectly
I think
correct.
silence is so vibrant.
Vibrant.
Yeah.
Well, I think we have.
Really?
Yeah, we just. Yeah,
Again, yeah.
I don't
are we
think
watching?
vibrant.
I
I
don't
don't
we
think
just
it's
swap
vibrant.
eyes or something.
Yeah,
I had
like,
like,
I don't
what
think
the
it's
hell?
vibrant. No,
No, but it's like
silence
the
is
greens
like-
are so rich and like
The greens are greens. The blues are blues.
Yeah,
The
when
blacks
they,
are
when they
blacks.
go
The
to the
oranges
sea
are orange.
shots, like
I don't know.
yeah.
It's got this like cold
Rewatch
throughout
it,
No,
video.
rewatch
you
it,
need to watch it. You
need to rewatch
the
it.
blues are so like
Yeah.
it's the blues are so blue. It sounds
Maybe,
so stupid.
maybe.
No, but
Like,
that's it. Like the
maybe
Irishman, the whites are whites, the blacks are blacks. You
Yeah.
know, the greens are greens, the reds are reds. This one is just kind of like it all just feels like I don't know.
Yeah, and you can tell that from the trailer. It
Yes,
kind of has
yes,
that sort of
yeah.
aesthetic.
But yeah, like I said, I don't think it would have worked as well if it did have like
all of this camera moves.
yeah.
And
Exactly, they needed to sort of ground the story, and like props to Rodrigo Prieto for shooting Barbie and
then this, yeah.
like crazy. Anyways, to sort of hone this all in, guys, what do you guys think about the idea that this could, in fact, be Martin Scorsese's final film? I know we touched upon it.
I think he's making
Then
another
the-
one though.
I
with
would like
DiCaprio.
for him-
If it is,
I
if
would
it
like
is.
for him to make a really intimate film
Last
next,
one,
like
last
kind of
a
go back to
proper-
like Taxi Driver roots.
Set it in
like,
New York.
bro,
you know,
even,
like
even
in an
even
apartment
even less. I
Okay.
really mean like a really genuinely make a two-hander. Like make a really intimate, very like
Agreed. Completely
like dialogue-driven, two characters and like a before trilogy vibe. Like
yeah,
I want him
yeah,
to
yeah.
make something really tiny
Yep.
and finish off on that, so that he pulls like kind of a Tarantino thing where he does
an
like
epilogue.
epic
This is
and
the
then
climax and then
epilogue.
epilogue.
I
I
think
agree,
that would be
100%.
like a perfect little.
Although I will say the ending of this film was absolutely 10 out of 10,
I think
5-star,
I agree.
fantastic.
The ending was fire. I
Absolute
agree.
What
genius.
specific are you talking about? The
Martin
final scene?
Scorsese coming on and being the announcer.
But I think the whole fact that he decided to finish the story in this like comical storytelling
Yes.
way,
Oh.
which is a critique on the fact that he is making a film
Yes.
Yes.
about this thing,
Yes.
that was like such
Genius.
good
There's
self
a level of meta
understanding.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
yeah,
for
yeah.
sure. I'll be completely honest. That sort of pantomime-esque kind of scene where
Yep.
they sort of sing the fate
Yeah,
of this, I didn't really know how I felt about it. I'm still kind of like, I'm not sure. But to see Scorsese sort of coming on
that
stage,
made it. That made it.
yeah, that was like that is why I asked the question. You know, it kind of feels like
It does
he's
feel
saying
like his last
goodbye.
one, yeah.
That's-
It does,
Yeah.
it does.
I also think it's quite a cool idea just for filmmakers to do, because instead of just doing like the, you know, at the end of some films you have like the text saying what happened in real life and who survived and who died.
Yep.
It'd be quite cool if the director just came on and read it.
Yeah.
Just came
So
at the end of the film, instead of the text, you just go, and by the way, in the true story, this is what
It's
happened.
not Tarantino.
Well, no, and then like what? He's just refreshing that David Fincher accepted your friend request, and then he comes on.
When-
As, you know,
That would be kinda cool.
when I make my last movie, when I make my
You're free to check
the king. No, Ron. No, Mickey. No.
How did you just say that?
Do you want to stop Dylan or not?
I rewatched it last night too.
Not me. Not Hermione.
Not Theo. You.
When I make my last movie, see, my joke is gone now. I was gonna say the
Fuck's
last
sake.
shot is gonna be Theo on his phone.
But yeah. Like I said, just to conclude this episode, what have you taken from the whole experience of watching Killers of the Flower?
I got to see Martin Scorsese in person,
Okay. Well,
which is cool,
yeah. I mean, that's
and I
Pretty-
respect.
pretty
It'll
Leo-
be in like my top 10 probably list of the year.
Leo's the GOAT, De Niro's the GOAT, and Mollie, Lily Gladstone's really good.
interesting.
I think Scorsese is awesome.
Yep.
Keep going.
Keep going.
I love everything. He
How
can
old is Scorsese?
Like
now?
81. I think he can like point the camera at a wall, and I will watch
And
it,
make
and
it-
I'll be like, you know what? There was some good themes in there.
Yeah.
So fuck yeah, go Scorsese.
Yeah.
Which actually, can I bring my last question, which apparently you guys said was interesting. I don't think it was very interesting. But is there such thing, and audience, please participate, is there such thing as Scorsese tax? By what I mean is if a movie's really bad and it's directed by Martin Scorsese, but if it's objectively really bad, will people just say it's actually good because it's directed by Martin Scorsese? Because I respect him so much that even if he shits like complete dog shit, I would still give it an extra half star or an extra 1 star on Letterboxd, and I'll still say it's good purely because it's Martin Scorsese. Is there such thing as
But
good
are
director
you saying purely because it's Martin Scorsese, or are
No,
you
because
saying
I
you
think-
watched the film and you can see why he made certain
Yes,
choices and
yes.
you accept
even
that?
if I don't like them, I respect them. That's my
Okay.
thing. Is it's like even if you don't necessarily agree with the movie and necessarily like the movie, because it's by a director who's so good and is so bulletproof, that you would think maybe I'm the one who's an idiot.
For me, I think each film you have to earn me over from fresh. Like I don't know
Okay.
who.
Interesting. But I mean, I think it's not even just Scorsese tax.
It's other directors as
It's
well.
other filmmakers' bias. Like, there's always going to be a certain level of bias
Yep.
if you're more into that filmmaker.
Yeah.
I think with something like Killers of the Flower Moon, you know, like we've talked about the runtime all throughout this episode, 3 hours, 30 minutes.
The issue
like,
is not the runtime, it's the other things
exactly.
we talked
But
about.
at the end of the day, right, you were talking, Mickey, about like what the perfect runtime is for a film period. What did you what would you
Okay,
say?
so for me or for the
like
world?
general.
Scientifically.
So scientifically, apparently, I read a thing that said the perfect runtime for a film. Also, this comes from the 3-act structure, which I think is a little outdated, but whatever. Is between 95 minutes and 110 minutes.
Okay.
That's the way that
short.
we are. That's the way that we are meant to view media, basically in
Attention
a film.
span
Yeah, all that stuff
Yeah.
is between
Ridiculous.
95 and 110. I do think that's like a really, because I think 80 is too short. Then you're like, what the fuck happened? But I think when it does go above 2 hours, because guys, we're film geeks, but a lot of people, most people are not. They're casual moviegoers. The regular person statistically goes to the cinema twice a year, so that's like nothing. So to those people, a 3-hour-long film is a commitment. Like, it's really crazy to them. So it is true that 110 minutes feel very satisfying, but also not over the top that you would be like, okay, I need
much.
to go to dinner, I need to pick up my dry cleaning. You know what I mean?
My last question to all of you guys, no explanations, nothing, just say it. What is your favorite runtime? Like, if you were looking up a movie's length on IMDb and you saw that runtime, you'd be like, oh, yes, I like that.
2 hours 30.
2 hours 30? I'm
yeah,
2 hours
2
35.
hours 30. 2 hours.
110.
110.
1 hour.
yeah.
What do you mean?
Wait.
110 minutes.
110 minutes.
1 hour 50.
Oh,
What the fuck?
I was like 1 hour 10 minutes. I was like,
in a different
I
method.
don't know. I was just thinking like 110 minutes.
It's really short.
Yeah.
Wow.
no, but that
No,
I
that's
think
an hour 50.
hour.
Yeah,
hour,
that's short for me.
nah, that's not short.
Anything below 2 hours is short for me, in my opinion. Because I watch like 4.5 hour movies.
Yeah, I feel like as I've grown older,
Yeah.
my taste for longer films has definitely
Same.
Yeah,
Same.
Like when I was a kid, I was like, "There's no fucking way."
But also, do you guys know the amount of movies that are really like in Across the Spider-Verse is like 2 hours
2
and a
hours,
half.
yeah.
Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning is really long. Oppenheimer is really long. John Wick 4 is really. These are like all 2.5, 2
Yeah,
hours.
yeah, yeah.
40
I feel like that's more to do with a trend in Hollywood.
Yeah.
That's what I feel.
Do you think the trend? Oh God, another question.
Go on.
Do you think the trend will stay?
I hope it does because I like long movies.
Was Barbie 2 hours?
No, it was an hour and
Hours.
50. It was an hour. and 50.
Hour 50. So perfect for you.
I think, unfortunately, money talks, and longer runtimes do,
Mean
whether we
less
like
money.
it,
Yep.
mean it turns way more people off, and naturally the film isn't.
It's
gonna
all-
make
it-
it.
No,
Also-
Avatar 2, Avengers Endgame, Titanic.
Yeah,
Okay,
but-
okay,
yeah, but
okay.
they
But,
have
okay,
existing
there's a few things. There's a
IPs.
few things.
Scorsese's
Also,
film.
Avatar 2 makes a lot of money because of IMAX. So if you
Right.
adjust that, it also, obviously, of course, it made a lot of money, but that's another factor. But there is also the point that if it's a 3-hour-long film, you can only fit so many in a screening day.
schedule in a day. Yeah.
So they will make less money because they can't be shown that
That's
many
why
times.
Justice League was cut short. That's
that
why.
doesn't surprise me.
Ridiculous.
But yeah, you
Let's not
can,
even go into that shit.
I think 3 hours is a current trend, but I do think, like, when we were kids, like, if I was 9 and I asked my parents, like, how long is a movie? Like, if you didn't know anything
2 hours?
about
Oh my god, that's so
they'd
long.
say, no, I think 2 hours is like, most people, when you go, how long is a movie? They'd go like 2 hours, maybe a little bit under.
Yeah.
But I think in 20 years, that's going to become 2 hours 15,
Yes.
2 hours 30. So
It's
I
already
think
started.
the average is going to go above 2 hours, but not 3 yet.
Yeah, I still think 3 is like, yeah, it's quite an ask for
Yeah,
people.
I agree.
But yeah, guys, I think that is it. I think that is our discussion on Killers of the Flower Moon. Be sure to let us know what you thought of the film, whether or not you think it's one of Scorsese's best. I want to say a massive thank you to my fellow guests, the OG gang.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Mickey, Panwa, Theo, thank you so much for coming and chatting all about Killers of the Flower Moon and Scorsese.
Is the next time all 4 of us are going to be together going to be Oscar?
It will be the Oscars, which will be next year. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching, listening, and I will catch you very soon in the next episode of the Popcorn Podcast. Cheers.
Bye.